Really do invite anybody to answer any question or ask any questions as we go along. Please feel free to either use the instant message facility on link, or if you dialed into today's webcast, please send us an email through to inquiries@risual.com. For the purpose of the webcast, we've muted everybody's phone just to eliminate any background noise. We will be recording today's session as well, so we'll be sending out links to everybody once the webcast has been completed. For those of you who perhaps haven't worked with Risual before, I'd love to just give you a quick overview of our business and where we think we sit and where we think we may be able to help people. So Risual are a completely Microsoft-centric company. We only focus on Microsoft technologies, and in that respect we provide consultancy and managed services to build support around Microsoft solutions. Now this can be either on-premise or in the cloud. Now, to be able to deliver kind of consultancy and support right across Microsoft's technology stack actually makes Risual really unique. We're probably one of the only companies who covers the whole of the Microsoft technology stack. And we think we're really unique because we still have specialists in each area. So our business is split into three distinct divisions, the first of which is Premium Technical Consultancy. Now, our Premium Technical Consultancy business, we actually split up again into four distinct practices. Now, this is done so that our consultants specialise in their own individual areas. The practices that we split the business up into are business productivity, which is really what today's webcast is going to be about. It's all about SharePoint and CRM. And joining me on today's call is Michael Owen, who is going to go into much more details for you on the benefits of SharePoint. The second practice that we've got is unified comms and messaging. So here our consultants really specialise in things like Link, Microsoft Exchange, and the guys within this practice only look after Link and Exchange. So really want to make the point that although Risual as an organisation cover the breadth of Microsoft technologies, you can be guaranteed that when you're dealing with a consultant, they're a specialist within their field. The next practice that we've got is systems management, and this is where we like to look at things like desktop transformation. It can be things like System Center that we're looking at within this practice. And then the final practice is identity and access perimeter. So looking at things like Active Directory Federation services, Forefront Identity Manager, really looking at how you can use your identity for things like single sign-on. So again, each of our consultants is a specialist within their own individual areas. Now, because Risual as an organisation do cover the breadth of the Microsoft technology stack, we've got a business consultancy division. Now, this team really, like if you're working with customers on big projects, we're dipping into lots of different practices. It's our business consultancy team who will pull everything together and make sure the project runs as smoothly as possible for you. So here we have our engagement managers, and they work with organisations to help show how you can get the most benefit out of your Microsoft licensing and the investment that you've made. There'll also be project managers in here as well, so if you do want to do SharePoint and Link and Exchange, they'll tie everything together for you and ensure the successful completion of a project. Now, Risual as an organisation not only want to help you understand the benefits of Microsoft technologies, but also to implement them and then to offer continue ongoing support once they've been put in place. Now, I'll come back and talk to you a little bit later on about the different types of managed and support services available, but what we really want to do is help you maintain and optimize your use of Microsoft technologies. Now, we've briefly talked about kind of how Risual as an organisation is set up, but one of the key things for Risual is that we really see IT being at the heart of positive change, and we've put together three distinct strategies to take out into the marketplace, really looking at how you engage with your customers and making sure that you've got the right infrastructure in place. So the first of our propositions is our connected business proposition, and this really looks at how you engage with your citizens or customers. It's really about having the right information at the right place at the right time to be able to deliver the message that you want to your end customers. The next level of this, and our second proposition, is really making sure that your workforce is empowered to be able to deliver the engagement message that the organisation is looking to do. And for this, we've got our end user computing proposition. So it looks at making sure your staff have the right equipment, so be it the right devices, the right communication tools, really empowering your workforce to be able to deliver your connected business strategy. Now, once we've got all this lined up, it's really important that your infrastructure that you've got at the back end is right to be able to support the business as it needs to. So for this, we've got an optimized service vision, and it looks at how you can enhance your infrastructure, your operations, and your processes to be able to deliver the messages that you need to, and to be able to connect in the way that you need to. Now, what I'm going to do is pass you over to Michael Owen, one of our SharePoint consultants, and he's going to take you through a little bit about SharePoint All Up at the moment. Thanks very much, Mike.
Okay. Right. Good morning. Can everybody hear me okay? Just a few of you sort of let me know in the chat window. Also, if you can see the presentation, I gather some people are having problems. Okay. Okay, good stuff. Right, so my name's Mike Owen. I'm a SharePoint consultant with Visual's business productivity practice. I've spent the last 10 years working with SharePoint on and off, and the last 5 years really specializing in the product. So I've worked with all of the versions since SharePoint Portal Server 2001, which kind of got swept under the carpet. I get involved in all aspects of the SharePoint product lifecycle, from the initial strategy and design through to delivery and day-to-day support. So by way of an agenda, we've already covered off some of the introductions. We'll do a brief overview of SharePoint and the common uses, a little bit of a history lesson on what SharePoint is and how it's sort of developed, a quick look at governance adoption, and then a demo of SharePoint 2013 and what it can provide you. Okay, the idea really behind the webinar is that when we talk to people about SharePoint, generally they don't understand what it is. You kind of know when you're getting Exchange or Link that because it provides specific functionality, you know what you're going to get when it hits your desktop. SharePoint's a bit of a different product, so we're hoping that this session will go some way to clarifying that. The functionality that we discussed in the demo, as I said, relates to SharePoint 2013, but also most of what we're going to cover is going to be available regardless of whether you're using SharePoint on-premise or SharePoint online. Okay? What this session won't do is go into any detail, any particular depth within the SharePoint functionality, purely because there's just not enough time to cover that off, I'm afraid. So, what is SharePoint? So it is a few facts. It's the biggest selling product year on year. There's currently a big push to the cloud by Microsoft, but they still have committed to at least one other on-premise version. It brings in over $1 billion of revenue for Microsoft every year. It's bigger than Office, in fact, and they've sold over sort of 125 million licenses worldwide. It's quite a common that you have around SharePoint. So it really needs a bit of thought and a bit of knowledge around SharePoint's capabilities. In actual fact, your penknife becomes a little bit sort of larger in terms of the toolkit that SharePoint provides. It is kind of a development platform, if you like, for business users. Some reasons why you might want to use SharePoint. And Gartner, the business analysts, they always publish some research around the top 10 technological priorities for every year. So this year, the top 5 happen to be big data and business intelligence, which SharePoint can absolutely cover. Mobility, which we'll discuss later. Cloud, which Yes, with Office 365, SharePoint can deal with that. Social media and collaboration, and yeah, both of those are really at the heart of the SharePoint 2013 product. So the problem that I mean, I'm guilty of it as well, really. The SharePoint is full of business terminology. I mean, you literally sort of get swamped in the amount of terms that that go with the product. So it makes it quite difficult to understand what functionality is actually available and how it all fits together. So we're not saying that the detail isn't relevant, but to get an understanding of SharePoint's core capabilities, it's going to be easier to kind of take a bit of a step back and look at it from a high level. So at a high level, oh, beg your pardon. At a high level, SharePoint will provide you content management features. So it is a full content management system. It is used for internet sites, intranet sites, extranets. There are actually some good examples that can be found on a website called spscloud.net. And if I drop that into the chat window, you'll see examples of site design that are using the SharePoint product, both 2007, 2010, and 2013. It also provides e-forms and workflows capability. So this is kind of the idea of having sorry, Melanie, do you have a screen in the bottom corner that looks a bit like a monitor? If you click on that, you should see a presentation view. Sorry, the screen, the e-forms and workflow. So it's kind of simple data capture, but you can embed quite complex logic and integrate the forms and workflow into other applications. It's a way of automating your business processes, providing automation around otherwise paper-based processes. There is a little bit of confusion around this because the Forms product, InfoPath, was announced earlier this year that it's going to be due to be deprecated. That's not for another 10 years, and by that time there'll be a definite roadmap for the next version of Microsoft's electronic forms product. So the real guidance around that is just to keep electronic forms simple if you're going to continue to use InfoPath, but assess it on a case-by-case basis. The next thing that SharePoint is particularly good at is collaboration. It really is at the heart of the product. So how do I work with the teams, the groups of people within projects, within communities, the provision of things like task lists and calendars to help people work better together. There is also a huge social element in the latest version of the product. Microsoft worked quite hard on providing something called SharePoint news feeds, which provided a bit of a Twitter-like experience, but they kind of muddied the waters a little bit because they acquired Yammer around the same time that they released the SharePoint 2013 product. So although the recommendation from Microsoft is that all their development will be going into Yammer, and that's the recommended product going forwards, sometimes people find that for whatever business reason, that might not be the most appropriate product for them. SharePoint is also a very, enterprise document management. It's certainly come on a long way, as we'll discuss in a moment, but it now provides full document and records management capabilities. Kind of prior to the 2010 version of the product, it only really had basic functionality, but now we are working with numerous customers to provide full enterprise electronic document and records management solutions. Um, SharePoint also provides search. In fact, some people only use the search aspects of the product now because it is such a scalable, configurable product. We can search across everything in SharePoint, as you might expect, but we can also search across file shares, line of business applications, Exchange public folders, things like that. The latest version of the product incorporates a product that Microsoft acquired from a company called Fast. They were industry leaders sort of at the time in search solutions, and for the 2013 version of the product, the best parts of the Microsoft Enterprise Search have been combined with the best parts of Fast Search. So we now only have one version. We only have SharePoint 2013 Search. And finally, SharePoint provides the ability to build business solutions. So whilst all of the previous 7 sort of areas of functionality can be used in isolation, to get real benefit for an organization, we need to combine one or more of these pieces of functionality to provide a business solution. SharePoint doesn't come with these business solutions. These are things that we have to build in, but these are custom no-code solutions for a business. Okay, so as I said, a little bit of a recap. The reason being, every version of the SharePoint product basically builds on the previous version. So prior to SharePoint Portal 2003, there was a 2001 version of the product. I haven't included it in the slides. It was a non-SQL backend to it. It actually used the WebDAV technology. But it provided portals and content sharing and collaborative workspaces. So the idea from the get-go was to provide a single place that people could work, or for people that could find their resources in one place. So the collaboration aspect was baked into the product right from the first version. With the 2003 version of the product, it actually came in 2 versions. So there was SharePoint Services, which provided all your core content management and collaboration functionality. And then there was also the SharePoint Portal Server product to provide your portals capability. You also had your first hints of kind of the social platform, because you were able to provision personal sites. It also had some basic search functionality in here. But in comparison to where we are now, it was a long way off the search and collaborative elements that we've got. Amusingly, it also said that it provided integration with Office, but if memory serves me right, that's a very loose term, integration, unfortunately. So after 2003, we then sort of moved up to to SharePoint 2007. I mean, Microsoft always talk about the feature gap between products. Well, between 2003 and 2007 version of the product, I've heard the feature gap described as the Grand Canyon. The amount of functionality that went into this version compared to the previous version was massive. So they had huge amounts of improvements around content management. We saw the beginnings of content types and how we can classify content. So this also helped with document management. So I can provide some metadata, some data about the information that's going into the system. You don't typically get this in file shares, other than maybe sort of modified and created dates. But with SharePoint, you're able to provide a lot more information about your documents in order to facilitate a more effective search mechanism. We also had the ability to build business automation introduced within 2007. So this is the first sort of InfoPath integration. We could also build the workflows. There were some out-of-the-box workflows, but you could also add your own custom workflows with SharePoint Designer. We also saw the introduction of business intelligence. So this was via Performance Point and Excel services, so we could create dashboards and reports and do some analysis within Excel services. Even now, within the SharePoint 2013 product, most of the BI solutions are driven by Excel functionality. We also had big search improvements. This is kind of about the time that the FAST product was acquired and integrated. So at the time, you had to build a separate environment for FAST search. It was quite expensive and it required some extra configuration to build it into the SharePoint environment. But the signs of sort of what was to come were kind of evident. So we then skip forward another 3 years, which is the common release cycle for the product. So in 2010, again, this built on previous functionality. It brought a complete change in design in terms of the user interface. In line with the Office products, a ribbon was provided. Architecturally, it was completely redesigned as well to enable the product to scale better for larger organizations. We had the ability for offline working. So a product called SharePoint Workspace was introduced. Now this was formerly called Groove, but it essentially provided the same thing. I want to be able to work on my documents while I'm disconnected from a network, while I'm traveling on a train, something like that. We had improved social capabilities with the ability to tag documents, to provide some notes on the documents, or even ratings to say, well, how useful was this content to me? Ratings are not generally an accepted measure of how accurate the content is. It's more how useful it was. It also provided kind of true records management, so we could do in-place records. We could also do automatic disposition of records. They had better information management policies, so how long should I keep a document before it is archived and sent to a record center? We also had the sort of improved Office integration. A product called Office Web Apps was released, which would integrate into your farm so that I could open my Word, Excel, PowerPoint documents without the need to actually have Word, Excel, or PowerPoint installed on the device that I was using. At the time, this was all built into the product was installable within the same environment as SharePoint. So bringing us right up to date, SharePoint 2013, the latest release of the product, another big sort of jump in terms of functionality, another change in user interface as well. This time it is much simpler, it's a lot cleaner to use. It actually looks quite good out of the box, and it's also quite easy to amend the branding just within the user interface, albeit in quite a simple way. The underlying HTML code that supports the product was completely rewritten for compliance, for accessibility reasons, so screen readers, things like that. There's also more what's termed as cross-site publishing. Sorry, back to this terminology problem. But previously, I had to consider quite carefully how the information was architected, where things were stored, because there were certain boundaries that I couldn't cross if I wanted to try and share information, say, between departments that were stored in different databases. Those restrictions have been lifted with this cross-site publishing. There's much improved ways of sharing that information now. There's also a lot of mobile improvements with the 2013 version of the product. Previously, if I wanted a decent mobile experience, I had to employ a developer to go and sort of rewrite all my pages, whereas now with the sort of responsive design techniques, SharePoint comes mobile enabled straight out of the box. There's also been a big push around social. As I mentioned, the acquisition of Yammer kind of confused the issue here, but the ability to have conversations in the context of the project or the team or with the documents that you're working on was seen as a massive step forward. They also introduced, rebranded what was originally called My Sites, your personal site, this area where I want to be able to store information that is private to me, my documents only kind of thing. It went through a couple of name changes. So originally it was My Sites and it went to SkyDrive, but because of a legal battle with a broadcasting company, it's now been rebranded as OneDrive. OneDrive for Business. The public offering is OneDrive. So this replaces the SharePoint Workspace functionality to allow me to take my documents offline and synchronize them onto my device. We also have improved collaboration. Again, there's some new templates were included for communities, for project management, some better integration, in fact, into the project application. They also allowed us to drag and drop files into the environment to improve how we upload and migrate content into SharePoint. They've also improved they've added, integration with Exchange 2013 and Link 2013. So this is kind of the latest attempt by Microsoft to surface email within SharePoint. With Exchange 2013, I can create a site mailbox, which will allow me to store my emails within the context of the site. It actually sort of presents your mailbox from Exchange within the SharePoint environment, but it's the closest thing we've got. There's still a long way to go. I think there's more to be done with this, really. But with that integration of Exchange and Link, they also introduced e-discovery capabilities. So we work with a lot of public sector organizations like the police, who through freedom of information requests need to be able to find content across their whole estate. So the e-discovery capabilities within SharePoint will allow me to put in some search terms that will search all of the documents and content within SharePoint, but also surface emails from Exchange and conversations from Link, so I can have them all in one place and then apply a hold to that content. So essentially take a snapshot of it so that that content can be investigated, exported, whatever we need to do with it. There is now a full suite of BI tools, the business intelligence tools like Power Pivot and Power View. You still need to provide the back-end data in the form of maybe a data warehouse, because SharePoint is purely the presentation layer for this. The online version of SharePoint also provides all of these tools. They've been added quite recently. The term Power BI is the collective term for it. In fact, one of my colleagues quite recently has done a webcast about this, which you can find on the YouTube channel that we run. The last, the search, as I previously said, has massively improved. The product, the search capability is now massively scalable. We can go so far as building search-driven applications. Content aggregation is a lot better. Surfacing content in a more presentable way, other than just a set of results on a page, is now possible. And finally, the app catalog. So this is the equivalent to your Windows Phone device or your Apple iOS device, where I can go off to an app store, buy an application and install it into my environment. We often get a lot of sort of questions around this, because you don't want everybody in your business going and spending money on applications in an uncontrolled way. And so what you actually have is an internal app store for your organization, and users can request apps. So they can go and look at the app store on the office.com site, but only administrators can actually purchase those applications and add them to the SharePoint environment. So even though there is a big push towards the cloud, Microsoft have committed to another on-premise version. The good things around the cloud is that obviously we don't have to think about any of the architectural considerations, and we don't have to think about backups or maintenance of the product, because that's all handled through our subscriptions. The way that the development model or the roadmap for SharePoint at the moment is all the new features for SharePoint are being added into Office 365. So features like Delve, which was previously termed Oslo, which is basically bring all the content that's relevant to me into one place. So if I've been at a meeting such as this, Delve would go and recover this PowerPoint presentation and bring it into an area, even if I didn't have it stored in an area that was personal to me. But the demo that I'll show you is mainly on-premise. We are in the process of migrating internal content to Office 365, so I do actually have a bit of a hybrid. So my OneDrive content, for example, is actually hosted within Office 365. So the last topic I wanted to talk to you about before heading into the demo was around governance and adoption. I mean, this is a big area, and unfortunately, it's a big area which a lot of organizations don't consider. In fact, it's normally the reason that a lot of SharePoint projects fail, because they've missed this planning section out. So a SharePoint environment needs to have some kind of rules of engagement. We need to have potentially two groups of people. So in the product's infancy, when we are starting up a project or a program of work, we'll need a project or program governance board that can help guide the direction of the product. Once the product's actually released live, we'll then need some form of business as usual governance to determine what new features should be added into the environment and how it should be developed. Ideally, this needs to be a kind of a mix of people and roles from within the organization. So IT representatives, business representatives. We also need input from executive staff, sort of director level almost, because we're potentially making decisions here which need to be backed up by policy, and it needs to be enforced. So these groups of people could actually be one group of people, but you do need them in place from the beginning. You'd also need a governance plan, which would lay out the kind of the governance structure, the board, the people that help make the decisions. It would also identify the roles and responsibilities, because SharePoint's such a large product. You have so many different types of people involved in it, whether they're administrators, developers, sort of at the back end helping develop functionality, or whether they're power users and IT trainers helping people to adopt the environment, right through to your business users. Everyone needs to understand how how they work within the environment and what their role is. You'd also need to have clearly defined policies in place. So, as I said, policies are like the rules of engagement. Why should I use this environment? Is it mandatory to use this? And what happens if I don't use it? I mean, obviously, through a clear training plan, we can convey the message to people around the benefits of SharePoint and what it can give you. But you will always have people who are resistant to change, and helping them adopt the environment is going to be a challenge. So in terms of that, getting communications going from the start is also quite key. People don't like things sprung upon them. So communications from the start, so they know what's coming and why it's coming and what the benefits are, it's going to help ease that adoption path. So then finally, we've got training. So SharePoint's generally quite intuitive. We've got the ribbon UI, the same as in latest versions of the Office product. So people will be able to get to the site and understand how to use it generally. But you still need some form of training, regardless of what solution is actually delivered. The thing with training, I was listening to a recent podcast by a couple of MVPs, Andrew Connell and Chris Johnson, and they were talking about on-demand training, and they kind of discussed training as being told how to get from London to Edinburgh 6 weeks before you actually need to do the journey, and then having to remember, well, how do I actually get there? So a lot of people give training right up front, and then by the time the product's actually landed on their desktop, then, well, how the heck do I use this thing? So there are a couple of on-demand training links that I'll call out, because these are training links that we can provide within the product, all right, to enable users to find context-relative help. So I'm working with some document management. How do I do a certain thing? So this is help provided directly on the page. Anyone that's used SharePoint knows that there is a question mark up in the corner, but it's really a token gesture of help. It's not that useful. So we at Ridgel, we always cover this governance piece with every engagement, because we believe it is so key to adoption. We don't want to go in and spend sort of time and money creating this environment only for it to be a ghost town sort of in the months to come. Okay, so the demo is going to be a fairly quick run through. This isn't a smoke and mirrors demo. This is our own internal live environment. We provide it quite vanilla by design, because when we're talking to customers, we don't want to say, like, this is SharePoint, and they see this massive sort of all singing or dancing site, and we forget to say, well, yeah, it took 6 months to develop this. So we'd rather show what is available out of the box, and then we can build on that. So I'm not really going into how we can build on that in terms of branding, but we'll go over some user interface and some search and collaboration pieces. Okay. So internally, this is our home page. Is everyone able to see? Hang on. One moment. Let's switch over. Okay.
I can see that now, Mike.
Is that all right? Thanks, Dave. Okay, so this is our internal system. We've customized certain elements of the home page, but once we actually get into the the bones of it, it's essentially the out-of-the-box product. So if I show you this is an internal practice site for business productivity. So we still have a ribbon in terms of the design. We can share this site with other people who may not already have access to it. I can also follow this site. So this is part of the social integration piece, where the sites that I follow will actually persist throughout the SharePoint product wherever I actually go. I can also synchronize this site. So this is where OneDrive for Business comes in. I'm able to synchronize this site for use offline. In terms of navigation, we normally have a global navigation that would sit across the top, such as this, and we would also, for team sites, have some form of contextual or quick launch navigation. SharePoint sites are made up of things called apps, so things like a document library or a calendar. That's actually referred to as an app within SharePoint now. And what we're looking at here, these are web parts. So these are views of those apps that we can configure. And right in the middle of the page, we've opted to put in a Yammer newsfeed. So this is a link to a Yammer group, which I'll cover off some of the social bits in a bit more detail. But this differs to the SharePoint newsfeed element that you can see in this view. I also have the ability to be able to search for documents direct within the site. So if I were to search for SharePoint here, I should get quite a few hits because it's a business productivity and SharePoint practice site. So it tells me that I've got some. It tells me that I'm just searching within this within the context of this site. So I could expand this to say, well, actually go and search across everything within the visual SharePoint environment. So what we're looking at here is these top links at the top. These are referred to if you use Google or Bing, obviously being a Microsoft house. These are what were known as best bets or promoted links. These could be kind of pay-per-click ads in the Bing sort of website. These are things that we have said, well, if you're searching for SharePoint, you're more than likely to want the business productivity site or to get to the SharePoint homepage. Running down the left here, we've got a refinement panel. So I only want to see hits to do with PowerPoint slides, for example, and I only want to see things that maybe Alex has worked on. What we have with the brackets around this, these are results blocks. So I can say, well, I want to identify certain results, group them together, and then have them automatically ranked. So when people search for SharePoint at the moment, Word documents are quite popular. These parts, actually, sorry, before I move on to that, with SharePoint 2013, we now have this tight integration into Office web apps. So I'm able to see a preview of a document without actually having to open the document. If I actually go and grab a PowerPoint slide quickly, it will open up the PowerPoint slide and it will let me sort of scroll through the slides, still within the context of search. So I don't need to go and open PowerPoint in order to make sure it's the right version. Across the top, we've got these things called search verticals. So these are sort of like groups of content. So if I want to go and find all the people that have something to do with SharePoint or have SharePoint in their profile, I can come and have a look at this. So if I go and have a look at my practice that's the problem with live demos, unfortunately. Let's switch to my own then. So we would have seen Alex's sort of profile. Now this is the My site. It is a place where it can provide you information about that person. All of the information within here can be configurable to be searchable across your environment. So if people want to find out about user profiles or about InfoPath forms, they can type that in, and I would come up as a hit on their search request. What we also saw as I hovered over my colleague here, we've got the integration into Link. So this contact card comes up, so I'm able to fire up Link and add or quickly start a conversation with Alex about a certain topic. We also see the presence indicator down the left-hand side of that image. So green, I'm available, sort of yellow, on my way, things like that. So in terms of collaboration, so we already have things like calendars where I can import calendars from Exchange into SharePoint. I could also have maybe an annual leave calendar that's hosted within SharePoint, but also visible within Outlook. So it's kind of a two-way street with this. We can also have image libraries. So show me images that maybe we use in presentations or within our documents. We also have obviously the document management side of things with SharePoint. So within this, within document management, we can specify things like the document type. Well, this is almost like content types. So classifications for documents. This could be a profile is a content type, or a how-to guide is a content type. But for each of those document types, there are going to be specific pieces of metadata. So what does the policy relate to, or what was the year that the policy related to, things like that. So we could have those pieces of metadata surfaced within what are known as views. So the traditional approach within a file share would be to have a series of nested folders. Now, SharePoint tries to move you away from that. In fact, the best practice view would be not to use folders, because if we have folders, we potentially could have the same document duplicated multiple times in different folders. And because everything in SharePoint is security trimmed, I might not be able to see that document. So we've got large amounts of duplication. We've got potentially erroneous search results because I'm now not working with the most recent version of the document. So there are good reasons why folders shouldn't be used and views could be. So I could have a view that's based on the metadata for the government protective marking system and say, well, just show me documents that are marked as secret, and then organize them, sort them by the creator of those documents. I can also, as I said earlier, we can take a document. I can take a document and actually drag it directly into SharePoint. So it will go and upload the document into the environment. And once it's in the environment, I can then go in and apply my additional metadata to this document. We can also have versioning of documents. We can have major and minor versions of documents. So maybe on the creation of a major version, we want to publish this to the intranet. So through workflows, we're able to do that. We also have this document ID notion. Now, the name of a document can potentially change over time as maybe the product, say the product name changes or something. A document ID will travel with that document wherever it goes. It's unique within a site collection within SharePoint. So in terms of linking a document within a document, say, I can use that document ID, and regardless of what the name is, the link will always work. Right. So I'll also show you the OneDrive capability quite quickly. So OneDrive, as I said, this is actually hosted up in Office 365 because we're running this kind of hybrid environment at the moment. But if I were to do the same thing, let me just show you OneDrive on here. So I have OneDrive on my laptop, and this indicates that all of my documents from my OneDrive site are being synchronized over. So if I were to create a new document in here, what OneDrive for Business will do is now synchronize this document and send it up into my OneDrive site on Office 365. Okay, so there's my new document that's just appeared. In terms of the social elements, as I said, we are moving towards Yammer. A Yammer group can be embedded within any of your sites. There are web parts to do that. In fact, so if I go over to a business productivity group, actually on the Yammer website, you can see that the functionality here is duplicated within the environment. So I can immediately write back to my colleague Patrick here. And this will be both posted within the site, but then also synchronized into Yammer as well. There is still a kind of an argument maybe for the SharePoint news feeds. So organizations that are of a secure nature probably don't want to use social that is hosted sort of out on Yammer. They need to keep the data sort of in-house. So there are considerations around social. People always ask about the policy side of it as well. How do you control people from using this? Well, how did you control people from using email? You have some sort of policy which you can enforce. So the same sort of ideas here. Just very quickly, I also wanted to show you the project integration. So with 2013, I can take a Microsoft project file and I can synchronize it straight into a site. So I don't need to have everybody, I don't need licenses for everyone to have project. I can simply synchronize it with my project SharePoint site and then assign tasks from here. So I don't even need to print it out and take it to the meetings and things like that that I see so many times. Okay, so finally, I'll quickly cover off content creation. So how can I go and create pages very quickly? How can I edit pages? So every site will have some kind of pages library, and I can quickly add a new page within this environment. I can then say, well, actually, I want to change the layout of this page, so provide a header and 2 columns. I've got all the capabilities to provide some text and formatting of that text within this page. I could also add a web part or an app part. So web parts being these kind of areas of functionality which may link to apps. I mean, there's a whole bunch of them. So let's say we want to quickly add a media web part. Okay. I won't run through the configuration of it, but the idea is, yes, we can embed media, we can embed an image, we can embed movies within sites. I could also surface those document libraries that we've got. So things like the internal document library. I want to add a document library onto this page. So you can very quickly build up the content. We can still got the check-in, check-out functionality, the version control that you get with the document management. We've still got the workflow capabilities to publish this. We can send it through an approval process as well if needs be. But the idea is the content management is very simple. It's easy to use, and it is a lot more flexible than it's ever been. Okay. Right. Okay. So, I think.
Do you want me to load the deck up again, Mike?
That's right. I do have it here. It says flicking through. Okay. So that's enough for me. We are going to have some Q&A, so if you can hang around and you have got questions, please do. If you can't hang around, then email inquiries@visual.com and I'll pick those up and get back to you. Okay? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for that, Mike. I hope everyone got something out of it and found it really interesting. What I'd like to cover very, very briefly is hopefully you're all now either thinking of deploying SharePoint or looking at increasing your usage of it. And Visual as an organisation not only want to help customers understand the benefits of the Microsoft technologies, but also to help you monitor and optimize it once it's been put in place. Now, to be able to do this, we've created a couple of distinct packages that I'll just run through very, very briefly for you now. If we start, I suppose, at the very, very top, which is our managed service. So Visual can do any level of support and maintenance that you require, from being your first, second, third line support to being an extension of your own individual IT team, so being an escalation point for you. Now, for our managed service, we can either do this per application. So, for example, we can offer managed SharePoint. So not only will we support your servers with our premium service, so 24 hours a day support, telephone and email support with proactive monitoring, but we can also take on some of the tasks of, say, a SharePoint administrator for you. Now, this can cover things from SharePoint configuration, so looking at creating and configuring new service application instances or create and amend quota templates, through to SharePoint permissions, so looking at the management of central administration access, and even SharePoint content management. So we can focus on particular applications for you, or we can do a full outsource of all of your IT infrastructure. Now, Visual as an organisation have fantastic experience of both on-premise infrastructure. We work with numerous customers who have gone for a hybrid approach. We're now helping to support some customers who are fully in the cloud and have none of their own infrastructure on site. If you're kind of dipping your toe into the cloud world and you go in Office 365, again, Visual can support you here. We can offer a couple of different things when it comes to supporting Office 365. The first of which is our Office 365 service management. So for here, we will do kind of platform administration and support, and we will be an escalation into Microsoft for you if needs be. So the types of things that we could cover would be, say, troubleshooting single sign-on, making sure that the user is set up correctly and they've got a license signed, or even kind of looking at setting up federations with external domains for you. Now, one of the great things about Office 365, and I know Mike touched upon it on this call, is that Office 365 is an evergreen product, so it's constantly changing, which means you're constantly on the latest version and you don't need to worry about doing kind of upgrades yourself. With this in mind, though, there's certain things that need to be taken into consideration, such as do you know what changes are actually going to take place and how that could affect you as an organization. So we recommend implementing our Office 365 service maximizer. Here we'll send a consultant on site, be it once a month, which is our recommendation due to the sheer number of changes that could be made, or once a quarter, dependent on kind of your requirements really. Now here the consultant will look at what changes are going to be implemented, how that may affect you as a business, how it may affect the end users and their experience, and really it makes sure that you're getting the most out of this technology. If you're on the latest version, it really makes sense to take full advantage of all the functionality that's in there. Now, if you've got your infrastructure already set up and in place and you just want an escalation point, you want to talk to a Microsoft specialist such as Visual, we're more than happy to provide that for you as well. To this end, we've got two main offerings. First of which is our premium offering, which is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. With this, we will do full proactive monitoring of your servers as well. So we put System Center Operations Manager on there. Every single day we'll run a health check on the state of the servers, and we will send you a report by 8 o'clock every morning if kind of letting you know what the status is. If we identify something that we think doesn't look right, we'll obviously have a conversation first, and then we can either take ownership of it and resolve the issue, or work with you in conjunction to kind of resolve the problem. If your business perhaps isn't running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you only really need support during business hours, we've got our standard support offering, which offers reactive telephone support from the hours of 8 until 6. Now, our support team are based at our head office in Stafford. The guys are all full-time members of staff and they're all security qualified. We've got great experience working with the public sector, so know about kind of PSN, connection issues, things like that. And the guys are superb when it comes to supporting these products. They've all got the relevant Microsoft qualifications, and hopefully you can see from the bottom of this slide some of the recommendations that we've got from some of the customers that we've worked with in the past. If anybody's got any questions at all about support, I'm more than happy to answer them. Each account that we have here at Visual does have a managed services sales specialist attached to it. So if you're not sure who yours is, or you want to be in touch with your own account director, again, please feel free to drop an email through to inquiries@visual.com, or if you'd like to contact me directly, my email address is daviday@visual.com, and hopefully I look forward to hearing from you. What I'd like to do now is just take everybody off mute, and if we can open it up for any questions. If anyone's got anything they'd like to ask either myself or Mike, please feel free to do so now. But I'd like to thank you all for joining us on today's webcast.